again, everybody, and welcome to another Vegas Voice segment of Hollywood Memories. I'm Dan Roberts, the publisher of the Vegas Voice, and I have the great pleasure of co-hosting this segment with the other woman in my life, and that is Miss Beverly Washburn. Beverly, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks to all of you who are watching.
And what we're going to do, as you can see from this very special and very elaborate setup.
Isn't it nice? It's a cute little set. Thank you.
Is that what, of all the TV shows and movies and radio segments that Beverly has done, she has also appeared in two very special Christmas shows. And I want to bring it up because not many people know about it.
Okay.
And I want to start with the first one that happened, a couple of years back. And that was in December of 1952. It was the Ford Television Theater, and it was called Heart of Gold. And
Okay.
you were just a little girl in that one.
Yeah, I played the daughter of George Reeves, who we all know was Superman. Now, I had done a Superman and the Mole Man, and at that time, I didn't know who George Reeves was then. I just thought he was really Superman. So a few months later, I was cast in this show. It was called Heart of Gold. It was a very sweet story that probably wouldn't fly in today's
I would think so,
world.
but we'll go into that. Go
kind of
ahead.
hokey, but it was cute. And so George Reeves was my father. Now, I didn't recognize him whatsoever because he was dressed, like a normal man and he had a mustache.
Big mustache, yeah.
Yeah. And so all the crew members kept teasing him and calling him Superman. And I was so young. I think I was like 7 or 8 or something. And I couldn't quite wrap my head around why they were calling him Superman. So I asked my mother, why are they calling this man Superman? And so she said, well, he really is Superman, but he's just play acting to be your father in this show. So I was like, whew, so relieved to find that out. But anyway, he was a very nice man. And Anita Louise played the mother. And then
Correct.
Tommy Reddick, people will probably remember him. He was the little boy who was on Lassie. And for many years. And he and I played brother and sister.
You remember the plot? A little bit about the plot?
Yeah, well, I was given this locket, this heart, and it's gold. So Tommy, my brother and I go out and we're playing with this snowman. And I say that he needs to have a heart. So I take my necklace off, my little locket, and I put it in the snowman and he comes to life. And the snowman was played by Edmund Gwynn.
Who later became Santa Claus in Miracle of 34th Street.
Right, exactly. Of course, again, I didn't know who he was, other than I just thought he was a really nice man to be working with. And they had him dressed up as a snowman.
Yeah.
So it was kind of comical looking back at it, I guess, kind of hokey in today's world. It was all made out of cotton. And in this day and age, the costume would look a little more authentic, but I think they did a pretty good job. And so once I put the little heart into his, the necklace into where his heart would be, he suddenly comes to life and he starts talking to us. So we get excited and go in and tell our parents. Of course, they don't believe us.
But here's the thing. When he was dressed up in that snowman, and you're adorable little girl, by the way, I'll tell you, it never occurred to you to say, this is the stupidest thing I ever saw in my life. You went right in with the lines and no problem at all.
Yeah, well, it was fun. And we were supposed to be outside. And of course, they had all the fake snow and all that because the lights would have melted real snow, of course. So it was a very sweet, touching story. But, things have changed so much.
Unfortunately,
the storylines. And it probably would be too corny in today's world. I don't know.
But you know what? The director of that segment was a gentleman by the name of Robert Stevenson.
Yeah.
And it's just something how he ended up talking with you and dealing with you. And any problems at all? You're in this show with Superman, Tommy, who became, a little guy in Lassie.
Yeah.
And never a problem, though, huh?
No. Well, Tommy, I do remember he was the one who told me that there was no such thing as Santa Claus. And I never forgave him for that because I thought there really was a Santa Claus up until I was I don't know, 19.
19 or so. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kidding. And Robert Stevenson was the director of Old Yeller. So when I had gone to audition for the part of Lisbeth in Old Yeller years later, I was kind of surprised that I got chosen, but I have a hunch that Robert Stevenson probably had something to do
I
with
would
it
think
to
so.
put in a good word for me, because anybody else could have done the same role.
No. I mean, that was you. Let me give credit where credit's due. But now, after we go from Heart of Gold, 2 years later, you do another TV show with the Ray Milland show, Meet Mr. McNulty. And tell us a little bit about that and your little doll named Amy.
Yeah, it was, again, another very sweet little story. I think it was a short-lived series. I don't think it was
3 years.
Was it 3 years?
Yep.
Yeah, it was Meet Mr. McNulty. And so, again, I'm redundant in saying this, I know, but I didn't know who Ray Milland was, even though he had won an Oscar.
Won an Oscar in 1945, for Lost Weekend.
There's a quick story about that. He supposedly was the only actor that was given an Oscar and never said one word of acknowledgement. He just simply bowed. They handed him the Oscar and he took a bow and left the stage. That was it. He didn't want to go there, from what I understand. And his wife insisted because he was nominated. So he didn't have a speech prepared or anything, and that's what he did. But anyway, I digress. So
you had this little doll, and again, we're talking 1954.
Right.
And go ahead. And
I have this little doll, and she's kind of raggedy and dirty and old and everything. And I play this bratty child. And it was a fun role to do, actually. But I have this little doll, and I feel that nobody loves me. And so the only one that loves me is my doll, Amy. So I talk to her and tell her all my troubles. And anyway, so I need to be in a foster home briefly while I find somebody to adopt me. So I end up at the McNultys, and I'm very bratty and very difficult to deal with. So anyway, they decide they're going to have a Christmas party. And so Mr. McNulty, Ray Milland, asks his good friend if he would pose as Santa Claus. So there's this party. Well, there's this scene where I'm talking to Amy, and all of a sudden I come up with this idea, because the whole time I'm really mean and bratty, and I stick my tongue out at Ray Milland, and I switch the sugar bowl. I put salt in the sugar bowl and sugar in the salt shake. I'm a real brat. And suddenly I come up with this idea, and I tell Amy that we're going to go to the Christmas party, and I'm going to be really sweet. And I'm going to pull off Santa's beard to show the kids that there's no such thing as Santa Claus. So anyway, then fast forward, there's this Christmas party, and Santa's there, and I keep trying to reach for his beard, but it won't come off. And then I get all agitated because I can't get it. And suddenly Santa says, "Oh, here's a gift for you." And I open, and I run into the other room with it, and I open it up. And it's Amy, but it's a brand new Amy. And she's all clean. It's going to make me cry. She's all clean and beautiful with a new dress. And I can't understand how Amy is suddenly new and everything. And so right after that, the friend of and then Santa leaves. So right after that, Mr. McNulty, Ray Milland's friend, comes in apologizing all over the place, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And he goes, "Well, you were just here." And he goes, No, I couldn't get here. I think it was something wrong with his suit or whatever it was. And so he said, "I'm sorry, I'm late. Is it too late now to do it?" And so anyway, the idea is that it was a real Santa, because the Santa that he hired was late, and nobody knows how my little doll.
And you mentioned it was a very sweet, innocent time. You can't even imagine doing something like that now, can you?
People would probably think we were drunk or something if we came up with a story. But it was it was
a very cute, sweet, innocent little story.
It was back in the 50s.
Yeah, which unfortunately you're not going to see that again.
No, but it was a fun role, and I loved working with Ray Milland, and it was fun playing a brat.
Yeah.
But it was a sweet show.
And speaking of Christmas and Christmas gifts, you received some very nice Christmas gifts from some very famous people. Let's start with Jane Wyman.
Yeah, Jane Wyman gave me this beautiful dress that I still have. It doesn't fit me anymore, but I still have it. I was like 6 years old. And it was in this beautiful big box, because when I was working with Jane Wyman and Bing Crosby on Here Comes the Groom, we wrapped the show right around Christmas time. So I got a beautiful gift from Jane Wyman, which is the dress. Got a beautiful doll from Bing Crosby that I named Dixie, because at the time his wife's name was Dixie. And then I got a cute little stuffed animal, little monkey from Frank Capra, who's the director. So those are all little things that I still have and I treasure.
And Jane Wyman, who was married to
Ronald Reagan.
And I mean, the Bing Crosby, you had no idea how big these people were, these stars were.
I didn't appreciate it, Dan. I certainly do now. And I've said this before. As I became an adult and I look back over my life, I feel that I was very blessed and fortunate to have worked with so many wonderful people. And I just didn't appreciate it at the time because I was too young to get exactly their fame.
And again, even though this is the Christmas segment, you're not going to say anything nasty about them, are you? They were all very sweet to you, weren't they?
They were all amazing. Yeah. You keep trying to get me to say something
one,
bad about
one day
somebody.
we will. You know what? But wait, one quick thing. You also received a very special Christmas card that you received from
Jack Webb. Now, I loved working with Jack
He was in
Webb.
Dragnet.
I did an episode of Dragnet. And I think, did we do?
We also did that, yeah.
Something, yeah, because, well, repeat myself, but he didn't want to memorize his dialogue. So he had this teleprompter. And I was mesmerized by it because it would roll around. And then that's why he had that famous delivery, just the fax man with notes, because he didn't want to take time to memorize his dialogue. He was reading it. So at any rate, every year up until the time he died, after I did that episode, I got a Christmas card from him, but it wasn't Christmassy. It looked like a white business card, and it had that embossed Mark 7 Productions.
Right.
And all it said was "Season's Greeting, Jack Webb." And the first year was about this big, then it was that big, and the next year it was that big. But it was the same card.
Same card every year, though.
But a different size, but it was the exact same thing. "Season's Greetings, Jack Webb." And I mean, he didn't sit down and write it personally, obviously. His secretary did. But I was honored to be on his Christmas list. And I was up until the time he died. So I always treasure that.
So anyway, that concludes our Christmas segment. Again, I thank you as always for letting me sit here. I wish you the happiest of holidays.
You as well. And to all of you, be safe and blessed.
And this is Dan Roberts with Beverly Washburn saying we'll see you again next time. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes, happy holidays.